State Senator, District 6 Democrat, Lynwood Lewis.
Hey, John.
Senator, good to have you.
Good to be back with you.
Now, Senator, I always love having you on because my mastery in predictions is legendary. I've only gotten 3 races wrong in 4 years. Let me tell you who they were. E.W. Jackson winning the convention in Richmond. I never saw that one coming. And Amanda Chase winning the last June primary. Okay, didn't see that one. So I'm 99%. And your race, I predicted Wayne Coleman would win, and you won. So that's why I love having the people on who beat my prediction.
Well, I'm glad at least to be part of that lineup.
It's a very, very select few people who do that. Now, you're running for re-election for a full term, District 6, so our audience knows what it is. This is all of the Eastern Shore, Matthews County, precincts in Norfolk, and I think, if I'm not mistaken, Senator, 1 precinct in Virginia Beach, right?
That's correct, John, absolutely.
Now, you got elected 2 years ago in the special in January by a small margin. Tell me what's different in this campaign than the other one.
Sure. Well, special elections are special for a reason, John, and we can point to a number of them within recent years that show that they're not always reflective of the political realities of the districts in which they're held. I always point to Charnel Herring's, my friend Charnel Herring's race in the House of Delegates a few years ago to succeed Brian Moran when he resigned his seat. And that's probably the most Democratic seat in the entire Commonwealth, and she won that special election by, I think, 16 votes.
Mm-hmm.
So there are a whole host of reasons why special elections oftentimes don't, again, reflect the political realities of the district. But and frankly, to be perfectly candid with you, I don't think we ran the best campaign during the special election because I don't think we took into account that it was a special election, and there are different dynamics in those types of elections than there are in regular general elections. But very confident with the campaign we're running this time. I think we've got a good campaign, we've got good staff, and we're making an all-out effort.
Well, Senator, honesty is the best policy, as you know. Now, let's talk about your record in the 2 sessions that you've been there. What would you say have been your biggest accomplishments?
Well, one of the things that part of being a larger effort, I think, in SOL reforms, I'm very proud of what we've done as an entire General Assembly and moving down that track finally after years of not being able to come together as a body to realize the problems with SOL reforms. Some of the things I've done locally in the relatively brief time I've been in the Senate that I'm proud of, we were able to secure additional funding, physician supplemental funding for CHKD, over $1 million, which is very important to that institution, and was proud to be a part of that. Worked on a program, Virginia Values Veterans program, to establish within that a grant program to encourage the hiring of recently discharged veterans, which in our area I think is tremendously important. And I've been very active, as you know, on the Recurrent Flooding Study Committee, of which I am a member, and have proposed legislation, although we were not able to get it successfully through the House, got it through the Senate, to establish a revolving loan fund for frequently flooded properties. We're going to make another stab at that in January when we get back. And I put a bill in to help with congestion at the HRBT, which apparently is being fairly successful. And that bill, John, as you might recall, deals with overheight trucks and providing them with an incentive to wait to be turned around to avoid traffic Armageddon. Mm-hmm. And in August, we avoided 30 additional backups at the Hampton Roads Bridge Tunnel because of that piece of legislation. I was also very proud to play a part in trying to get the parties together and resolving the conflict over the spaceport repairs. I think it was helpful in keeping everybody on track with that and to finally getting that issue resolved. And now we're looking forward to working on a governor's school to be located in Hampton Roads.
And what would the governor's school be?
The governor's school would be very, very similar to Thomas Jefferson School in Northern Virginia, and it would be STEM-oriented, STEM and entrepreneurship, and would encourage, obviously, the best and brightest students in those areas. TJ, as it's referred to in Northern Virginia, has been a very important part of their overall economic development scheme in Northern Virginia, and our region does not have a similar institution. And so very important, the Hampton Roads business community and now the Hampton Roads Community Foundation are very active in trying to get a governor's school such as that located here. Had a very successful meeting last fall in my office in Richmond with Secretary Ann Holton, representatives of the Norfolk business community, and also with Senator Alexander. And we're making some progress on being able to achieve some funding for that, and hopefully we'll have something in the governor's budget this year.
The governor's school, that's a charter school, right?
No, it's a governor's school to bring the best and the brightest from the various school districts, within the area. We already have one for the arts located in downtown Norfolk, but this will be a full day school located at a perhaps out in the Lake Taylor area.
Now, Senator, why does Virginia only have 6 charter schools? When I was in Georgia, a city in a northwest suburb called Roswell, we had 6 charter schools in Roswell. How come there's only 6 in the whole state of Virginia?
Well, that's a difficult question for me to answer. I mean, we have a process in place, and we've actually, I think, loosened the requirements. I believe Delegate Lingenfelter may have had a bill a few years ago, if I'm not mistaken, that sort of loosened the requirements for being permitted to have a charter school within the school system. And I don't have an answer for you why there aren't more charter schools.
Okay, now, yesterday, Governor McAuliffe came out with a statement saying, hey, unemployment is the lowest it's been in Virginia in some time. I think he said since 2006. And so he was touting his administration and what they've done to create jobs in Virginia to get us where we are. Well, he did that with basically a Republican House and a Republican Senate. So if things are going so well, why change anything?
You mean as far as control of the Senate, or are you talking about this?
Yeah.
Both. Well, I mean, I think each race is an individual race. I mean, when we were having the special election a couple of years ago, people were talking about control of the Senate, and I said, to me, it's just about who's better qualified and has this better skill set to represent this 6th Senate district. The control of the Senate is a secondary concern to me. But I mean, there are things, John, that I think some big issues that we have to deal with going forward. And there's been a demonstrated intransigence on some of these issues, and a lot of this goes back, frankly, to one of my pet issues, and that is nonpartisan redistricting, because I believe these districts, particularly in the House, are so tightly and hyperpartisan and drawn in a hyperpartisan fashion that we can't meaningfully bridge the gap on some of these big issues that we absolutely have to deal with. And I think the whole health care debate a few years ago was a perfect example of that.
So let's get to that. Look, we're not going to get Medicaid expansion through, not as long as Bill Howell has a supermajority. So even having the debate really is a waste of time. Is there going to be, if the Democrats get back in the majority in the Senate, which is about a toss-up now, is there going to be an alternative proposal to Medicaid expansion? Which, let's be honest, Senator, it's just a non-starter. It's not going to get through Howell. So we've got this logjam, but we've got rural hospitals going broke. Is there a compromise that could potentially happen?
Well, I mean, I think we sort of had that compromise. I think John Watkins and Walter Stosh came up with Marketplace Virginia, which was, I think, a very Virginia-oriented compromise as to how best to close the health care coverage gap and bring that money back to Virginia and start putting it to work in Virginia for Virginians, much as the Chamber of Commerce, which was why the Chamber of Commerce was so adamantly in favor of it. So, I mean, I don't know with that analysis if even that compromise couldn't get a breath of air. I don't know how we do move forward on it, but at some point, John, I mean, you got to do the math. And a lot of folks who represent areas with small rural hospitals in them are going to start feeling some heat from their constituents. I mean, we've just got to figure out. 30 other states have done this. 30 other states that are controlled by Republicans both in the governor's house and also at the legislative level. And so we just got to figure out how to do it. It's like Jan Brewer in Arizona said, at some point you got to sit down and just do the math. And so that's, I think, where Virginia is.
Or as Bobby Scott always says on my show, it's about the arithmetic, and you're spot on. And we have to do something. We just can't stick our head in the sands. I'm going to ask this question to a candidate that was on earlier, and I got a Republican candidate, and I got some answer about hospital certificates. Look, the bottom line is these hospitals in rural Virginia don't have any money. They're losing money, and so they're either going to continue to cut services, or they're going to close, which hurts jobs. Nobody will come into the area, but it's also for the people who are there. Like if you have a head trauma in certain areas, a senator in Southwest and Southside Virginia, and you have a head trauma injury, it can be 3 hours to get to a trauma facility. 3 hours. By that time, it could be the end. So we have to do something. And it sounds like you're working on it. All right, I got a couple more minutes. This disaster with these tunnel tolls going to Portsmouth, I know you were not involved in it when you were in the House because a deal was made by Governor McDonnell and his staff. Right. But what a catastrophe this is. I mean, this has got – I got to tell you, if Donald Trump ever saw this deal, his – hair would explode. This is the worst deal that's ever been made in the history of all deals ever, including the deal with the Iranians. Is there any way that we can get out of this thing?
Well, you know, it was a terrible deal, and then you pick up the paper and find out when we start digging deeper into it, it becomes even worse. Yeah, I mean, this was just a case of policy be damned and grab the headline and let the next guy worry about it. Yes, it is terrible. You know, and I don't know. I mean, a contract is a contract.
Right.
You know, if you try to extricate yourself from a legally binding contract, it's going to cost you some money.
Right.
You know, we had an opportunity at one point to do that, to buy our way out of it at a
$12 million.
Yeah, and we decided to go, or the McDonnell administration decided to go full steam ahead. Mm-hmm. And so obviously that was yet another bad decision. So, I mean, I think we need to look at it because it continues to prove to be a terrible deal, and we need to look at it, and we're just going to have to do a cost-benefit analysis as to what it's going to cost us to get out of it or renegotiate it and see where it takes us.
I mean, the only people that are making out in this deal are the owners of this company that were or involved in it, and their stakeholders, because the public is getting absolutely fleeced over it.
Yeah.
And I got to tell you, I'm a conservative, as you know, but I am not in favor of these public-private partnerships because you look across the country, the majority of them, it's just crony capitalism. It's deals being made. It's under the table. It's the same old developers getting rich. And if you're going to build a tunnel, let's have the government build a tunnel. I've always been opposed to this stuff because when you get government in bed with business, somebody's going to get ripped off. Am I right?
Well, we made some significant reforms to Virginia's P3 process, public-private partnership process, that I think will guard against that. Of course, at the end of the day, you got a negotiation, and human beings carry on negotiations. And so some people obviously are better at it than others, as we found out in some of the deals negotiated by the McDonnell administration on transportation. But I mean, I think the reforms that we put in place with more transparency and more accountability, somebody actually has to sign off on these projects to state affirmatively that they are in the public interest, and that's the Secretary of Transportation. I think that gives us as many safeguards as we can have on future bad deals like this. But our transportation system is such, John, that we kick the can down the road so long. I don't think, particularly on some of these larger projects, that we're going to be able to get them done without some kind of public-private partnership. We just have to make sure they're good deals and that the public interest is protected.
Well, had this deal gone to any committee or anybody in the General Assembly, either side of the aisle, it would have gotten blown up immediately. It's that bad. We got to figure now something out because it's a disaster.